Why did brilliant people like Carl Jung, Steve Jobs, and Virginia Woolf have nervous breakdowns, and why did this make them immune to manipulation? Hit that like button because what I'm about to reveal will change how you see yourself. Jung discovered that there's a hidden part of your personality. He called it the shadow, that when you deny it makes you vulnerable to manipulators. But when you integrate this darkness, you become psychologically invincible. Recent research shows that 91% of people who know and accept their own manipulative tendencies are immune to manipulation by others. And here's the irony. Jung discovered this not by studying manipulators, but by studying himself during what he called his confrontation with the unconscious. That's when he realized there was a direct connection between his denied parts and his emotional vulnerability. What Jung revealed during his own mental breakdown will teach you both to know yourself deeply and to protect yourself from any narcissist. Because manipulation isn't about force, it's about knowing the blind spots of the human psyche, and when you eliminate those blind spots, you become literally impossible to manipulate. Picture Carl Jung in 1913 at 38 years old, one of the world's most respected psychiatrists, suddenly starts having terrifying visions, hearing voices, thinking he's going insane. His wife Emma hides all the weapons in the house. Jung writes in his diary, "From August 1913 onwards, I devoted myself to letting the fantasies of the unconscious flow." Now imagine that it was precisely in this moment of madness that Jung discovered the key to understanding manipulation, self-knowledge, and life purpose. He realized that his crisis wasn't mental illness, it was his own shadow emerging, showing him parts of himself that he had repressed for decades. And you know what's most impressive? After this experience, Jung was never manipulated by anyone again, not even by Freud, who was known for being extremely controlling and manipulative with his disciples. Jung developed a kind of psychological radar that automatically detected manipulation attempts. If you've ever felt that some people drain your energy, if you've questioned your own instincts because of someone, if there are people who can make you feel guilty for things you didn't do, then you need to understand what Jung discovered about human nature. Transformation. This revolutionary discovery is usually taught only in analytical psychology courses that cost thousands of dollars. So subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, because I'm going to give you for free what Jungian psychologists charge $400 per session. Because when you finish this video, you know yourself at a level that 99% of people never experience. And as a side effect, you'll become completely immune to emotional manipulation. Not because you'll become cold or insensitive, but because you'll develop what Jung called differentiated consciousness, the ability to distinguish between your own emotions and those that others try to implant in you. Carl Jung said, your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. In 1913, Jung conducted a radical experiment on himself. He began actively dialoguing with his own shadow through what he called active imagination. Every day, for hours, Jung conversed with the darkest parts of his personality as if they were real people. The result was shocking. Jung discovered that within him existed capacity for cruelty, manipulation, narcissism, exactly the traits he most despised in others. He wrote, "I recognized that there was a personality in me that was different from the one I knew. This other personality had thoughts I had never thought, said things I had never said." Jung realized that the more he denied these shadow aspects, the more vulnerable he became when others used them against him. It was as if, by denying his own capacity to manipulate, he lost the ability to recognize when he was being manipulated. Let me give you a practical example. Jung realized he excessively criticized arrogance in others. When he looked honestly within, he found his own repressed arrogance, the sense of intellectual superiority that he hid even from himself. By accepting this shadow part, He stopped projecting onto others and became less defensive. But here's the most important discovery. When we deny parts of our personality, the prefrontal cortex spends extra energy repressing this information. Result? We become mentally exhausted and let our guard down, exactly what manipulators look for. Jung documented, what you resist persists. What you accept transforms. He discovered that internal resistance consumes psychological resources that could be used for self-defense and discernment. Modern neuroscientists have confirmed this. People who spend psychic energy denying aspects of themselves show reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for critical thinking and decision-making. It's literally as if shadow denial creates a neurological blind spot. Jung mapped the human psyche into trace levels, and manipulators know this map better than you do. It's as if they have an instruction manual for human vulnerability, while most people don't even know this manual exists. The first level is the ego, your conscious identity. It's everything you know about yourself consciously, your values, capabilities, preferences. Manipulators attack this level by questioning your capabilities, attacking your self-esteem, making you doubt what you know about yourself. Protection here is solid self-knowledge and self-compassion. When you truly know your capabilities and your limitations, it becomes much harder for someone to convince you otherwise. The second level is the persona, your social masks. These are the roles you play: perfect child, competent professional, dedicated partner. Jung discovered that our personas is like clothing we wear for different social occasions. Manipulators attack this level with phrases like, "You're not as good as you appear," "You're pretending to be something you're not," "Behind that mask, you're just like everyone else." They try to make you feel false or hypocritical. Protection is recognizing that your personas are useful tools, not your real identity. You can be professional at work and relaxed at home. This doesn't make you false. It makes you adaptable. But the third level is where the magic happens, the shadow. These are traits you deny having: anger, selfishness, envy, need for control, arrogance, laziness. Jung discovered that manipulators are experts at activating exactly the traits you most deny. The most powerful protection is conscious shadow integration. And here's the second transformative revelation. Manipulators don't create vulnerabilities. They exploit the ones that already exist through denial. Let me give you a practical test that Jung used. Pause now and think of the person who irritates you most. List trace characteristics you hate about them. It could be arrogance, selfishness, falseness, anything that really bothers you. Now be brutally honest, where do these trace characteristics exist in you, even if hidden or repressed? If you can find all trace, congratulations, you've just identified parts of your shadow. If you denied any, you have vulnerable points. Marie-Louise van Frans, who worked with Jung for 20 years, observed something fascinating. The shadow contains not only morally reprehensible tendencies, but also good qualities that have been repressed, like assertiveness, ambition, or even joy. This means your shadow isn't just about negative traits. If you were raised in a family where showing joy was seen as silliness, your natural joy might be in the shadow. Farthest Dave said Trump's name. He was seen as aggressine. Your leadership capacity might be repressed. Jung realized something revolutionary. Manufacturers operate as human shadow detectors. They have an almost supernatural ability to identify exactly what you deny in yourself and use this as a psychological entry point. When you deny a trait in yourself, your brain creates what neuroscientists call a hypervigilance response. You become unconsciously obsessed with this trait in others. And manipulators perceive this obsession as vulnerability. Let me tell you about an executive I met. Let's call her Anna. She always prided herself on never being selfish. It was practically her identity. I'm the person who always thinks of others first. Our narcissistic boss noticed this within days and began using specific phrases. Anna, you're the only person here who really cares about the team, not like the others who only think about themselves. Anna became literally addicted to this validation. Her brain released dopamine every time she received this recognition of being different and altruistic. When the boss needed something, he would say, I know you wouldn't want to be selfish like so-and-so, but I need you to stay late. Anna could never say no, because saying no would mean admitting she could also be selfish, exactly the trait she most denied in herself, Jung warned. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. What Anna didn't realize is that her obsession with not being selfish was, ironically, a disguised form of selfishness. She wanted to feel superior to others. There are three clear signs that you're being read by a manipulator. First, specific compliments about traits you value. You're so generous, not like selfish people. Second, comparisons that activate your pride. You would never be manipulated like Hex. Third, requests that appeal to your difference. I know you're not like the others. The newer science behind this is fascinating. When someone validates specifically the trait you use to define yourself, your persona, your brain releases dopamine. You become literally addicted to this validation, and the manipulator becomes your exclusive supplier. It's a vicious cycle. The more you deny a trait, the more you need external validation that you don't have that trait. And manipulators specialize in providing exactly that validation, creating emotional dependence. Jung revealed, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Here's the fourth transformative revelation. Your own capacity to manipulate is the key to your freedom. It seems contradictory, but it works like this. When you accept that you also have the capacity to manipulate, you develop the ability to recognize manipulation when you see it. It's like learning to drive helps you be a better passenger. You understand how the vehicle works. Let me teach you the practical integration exercise that Jung actually used. It's based on his original active imagination technique, but adapted for modern use. First step, shadow dialogue, 5 minutes, daily. Take paper and pen. Ask, what part of myself do I most deny? Write the answer without censorship. It could be anger, selfishness, laziness, envy. Be honest. Then ask that part, what do you need from me? And write the answer as if that part were a real person talking to you. Jung discovered something incredible. When we talk with our shadow, instead of fighting against it, it frequently reveals legitimate needs we're ignoring. Anger might be trying to show you that your boundaries are being violated. Selfishness, too, self-care, okay? Second step, recognition without identification. Practice saying, yes, I have capacity for manipulation. Yes, I can be selfish when necessary. Yes, I have repressed anger. But add, these traits don't define me. They're tools I can use consciously. The crucial difference is between recognizing and identifying through research. Recognizing is saying, yes, this is part of me. Identifying would be saying, this is all I am. Third step, conscious use of shadow. Transform shadow traits into positive tools. Manipulation becomes ethical persuasion and leadership. Selfishness becomes self-care and healthy boundaries. Anger becomes energy for change and self-defense. Let me tell you about Roberto, a 42-year-old engineer who was constantly manipulated by his ex-wife. He always prided himself on never being controlling. This was his point of pride. I'm not like my authoritarian father. In 4 months applying shadow integration, first, Roberto recognized his own repressed need for control. He realized that his passivity was actually an indirect form of control. He controlled situations by avoiding conflict. Second, He stopped feeling guilty about setting boundaries. He began to see that establishing limits wasn't being controlling, it was self-care. Third, Roberto began using assertiveness, his integrated shadow, instead of passivity. When his ex-wife tried to manipulate him with guilt, he responded, "I understand your perspective, but my decision is made." The result was surprising. The ex-wife stopped trying to manipulate him because he no longer responded to emotional triggers. Roberto said something that perfectly summarizes the process. When I accepted that I could also be controlling, I became impossible to control. Jung taught, those who harshly judge selfishness often repress their own selfish thoughts. The hypocrisy isn't in having these thoughts, it's in pretending we don't have them. Jung concluded with a powerful metaphor. A tree cannot grow to heaven unless its roots reach hell. Here's the fifth revelation. People who are hardest to manipulate are those who know and accept their own manipulative potential. Jung had a mental experiment he used with patients. If you were a manipulator, how would you manipulate a person exactly like you? What buttons would you push? What insecurities would you exploit? What values would you use against a person? Honestly, answering these questions makes you practically immune to manipulation. Because when you know your own vulnerabilities, you can protect them. The neuroscience behind this is fascinating. When you consciously accept your shadow traits, the prefrontal cortex stops spending energy repressing them. You become mentally more alert and less emotionally reactive. Jung discovers something that science can't completely explain. When two people meet, what he called constellation of complexes happens. It's as if the psyches talk directly in a language the conscious mind doesn't understand. People with integrated shadow emanate a different energy, a kind of solid psychological presence. Manipulators instinctively avoid trying to manipulate them because they know, on an unconscious level, that it won't work. If you've always been the nice guy who can never say no, your shadow contains repressed assertiveness. If you pride yourself on never being dramatic, your shadow contains repressed emotional expressiveness. If you would never admit to being selfish, your shadow contains repressed self-care. If you would never allow yourself to be controlling, your shadow contains repressed leadership. Jung warned, "Show me a sane person, and I will cure him for you." True sanity isn't the absence of darkness, it's conscious integration of light and shadow. Jung said, even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. The ultimate goal isn't to eliminate your capacity to manipulate, it's to become conscious of it, to use it ethically. The crucial difference between an unconscious manipulator and an integrated person is simple. Unconscious manipulator uses others' shadow to exploit. Integrated person recognizes their own shadow and chooses not to exploit. When someone tries to manipulate you internally, you can recognize, this person is trying to use my need for approval against me. Interesting. I also have this capacity, but I choose not to use it this way. This consciousness makes you emotionally invulnerable without making you cold or disconnected. If you're highly sensitive, Jung discovered that your sensitivity isn't weakness, it's a super-developed emotional radar system. When it integrated with shadow knowledge, it becomes a true superpower. Jung believed we live in an era where humanity desperately needs to integrate its collective shadow. Each person who does this work contributes to healing the world. Because when you stop projecting your shadow onto others, you stop creating external enemies for your internal issues. Marie-Louise von Franz observed, "Once we are conscious of something, we can recognize it, admit we have it, and learn how to express it in positive, non-destructive ways. Shadow integration isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming complete. It's about accepting that you're a complex human being capable of light and darkness and consciously choosing how to express this complexity. Now, I want to know, did you do the trace strat test? Did you manage to find your shadow, or are you still denying? Write in the comments, I found my shadow or still resisting. I have the Vinte Yunde Shadow Integration Protocol based on Jung's original techniques. It's a structured process that will transform you both internally and in how you relate to manipulators. If you're interested, type "I want it" in the comments, and when we hit Vinci comments, I'll make a complete video about this protocol. In the next video, I'll reveal the set of phrases Jung used to stop any manipulation attempt, including the quattro-word phrase that instantly disarms a narcissist. I'll show how Jung dealt with Freud himself when he tried to manipulate him psychologically, and the trace-specific techniques you can use in any situation, because the Jung-Freud relationship is a fascinating case study of how to recognize and resist manipulation from an authority figure. If this content is transforming how you see relationships, subscribe and hit the bell. Because this journey of self-knowledge and psychological protection is just beginning, and what's coming next will completely revolutionize your understanding of human nature.